Hello and welcome to God and Autobiography, the podcast. I'm Scott Langdon, your host, and today Jerry has a talk with Rosemarie Proctor. Rosemarie has a long and sometimes difficult spiritual story, as many of us do. Raised Catholic, then nothing at all for some time, and now worshiping as an Episcopalian, Rosemarie's journey is infused with love all the way.
Well, hello, Rosemarie Proctor. It's good to see you.
Jerry.
I think when we talked before, I asked you this, but I think I remember the answer, but how was it that you found out about God and Autobiography?
Like many things that happen in my life, by chance.
Yes.
A friend at church was recommending it to another person at church who handles the book club. And she suggested this book for the church book club.
Yes.
And when she started describing it, my ears perked up and I thought, I'd like to read that book.
Okay.
So based on what she had to say about the book, I picked it up and I read it.
Well, it shows you're an open soul right there. Yeah. This wasn't the beginning of your spiritual life, obviously, this book. What was going on? Where were you spiritually, religiously, at that point that the book came to your attention?
At that point, I was pretty firm in my spiritual religious life. I hadn't been for many years, but at that point, I'm an Episcopalian, and I feel very comfortable there, being an ex-Catholic, mainly because the church I belong to is very open, and that appeals to me. I feel very comfortable with being 85 years old now, with the fact that, I'm certainly a lot closer to the end than the beginning,
Right.
and that I feel very comfortable in my spiritual life.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure, I don't think anybody is, of what happens after this, but
Right.
I just feel comfortable knowing that there's probably something.
Uh-huh.
But if there's nothing, well, that's it.
The first job is to live this life right.
Right.
As best you can.
Right.
And according to God and Autobiography, there is a next phase.
Right. And I basically believe that, but I don't know that I feel 100% sure of that. More like 99%.
And again,
which is very close.
Yeah, that's right. And according to what I received in prayer, the main action is here in this life. We're not living this life in order for something else to happen, but we're living this life as best we can, and this is where the action is.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do go on.
Yes, and I feel that through some meditation, I've certainly reached the point in my life where material things aren't important anymore.
Right.
And how I live this life and how I respond to others is probably the most important thing to me.
Yeah, and they always were the most important, but before you have earlier in life, you have so many things you're trying to get done, and goals and hopes and ambitions and challenges, but it's nice that you get to a point where you can, those very important things of personal relationships and service. You do service, I understand, as a volunteer kind of chaplain, or you're not a cleric, I take it, but like a volunteer spiritual counselor and comforter.
Right.
Right.
And it's more comforter than counselor.
Uh-huh. Yes. And so that's very helpful for people in the hospital.
And very helpful to me too.
How so? Explain that.
Because every time that I feel that maybe I've helped somebody, it's very comforting to me too.
Yes. Now, you indicated you feel sort of firm spiritually where you are now, as if you're in the right place spiritually now. Where did your spiritual journey start? I gather it didn't start where it is now.
No, as a child, I went to Catholic schools for 9 years, and that was, don't forget, in the old days where they were very dogmatic about heaven and hell, and that was the most important thing in life. We learned as children to prepare to go to heaven, follow the rules, and you'll go to heaven. And, you're going downstairs.
Right.
And that lasted until I was in my 20s. And then at that point, there was nothing for many years, because probably when you're a Catholic and you're taught that everything else is wrong, it's hard to explore. Well, that's my excuse for not exploring other things.
I think that's a very common experience. The church that claimed to have all the answers then feels you not to have all the answers or not the right answers, but your only access to God, for example, your only spiritual life has been through that particular childhood church. And then people do tend to just become atheists or nothing. The
one thing I do remember that they taught us that stays with me is that all people are created equal.
Yes.
And they gave examples of them, the beggar on the street there and so on. And there was I think that was very, very, they were very, very strong about that. And I found that, I think from that, I incorporated that into my life, I think, without realizing it. But that's always been very important to me, to try to see value in other people's lives and be kind to them.
Yes.
But anyhow, over the years then, I think I spent a lot of time outside in the garden. And I didn't know that I was finding God there, but I felt very peaceful and comfortable doing a lot of gardening. And I lived in England with my husband. My husband was English. And when we came back here, he went to church regularly. He went to the Episcopal church. But I would accompany him once in a while, more just to please him.
Right.
And but when he died suddenly. I guess it's now 22 years ago, and we were very close, and well, it was a shock, and you can imagine. The minister from the church knocked on our door. I was taken to the hospital by a policeman, answered the 911 call. And he asked me what church my husband went to. And I told him, and it was a church in town. And he said, well, I'll tell the minister now. I said, well, don't bother him till tomorrow morning. And so when my son, daughter-in-law, and I came home from the hospital and were just at 6s and 7s, kind of absorbing the shock, all of a sudden there was a knock on the door. And it was this minister who must have had an agreement with the police saying, if, when he got from my church, how else would he have known?
Yeah.
And which was very nice. And he came to the door and he sat with us for about an hour. And then before he left, he got us together, holding hands, and said a prayer. Now, I can't remember a word of what the prayer was. I can't remember too much of what he said, but I do remember that as we stood in that circle, something came over me.
Really?
Yeah, a peace, but that didn't mean I was comfortable with all of this, but something else, maybe that said, it's going to be all right. I don't know what it was, but I felt it.
Right.
It was definitely an experience. And so that after that, I started attending that church.
Okay.
And that was an Episcopal church, not the same one that I'm a member of now, but I did start attending that church, and people there were very comforting to me.
Yes.
under the circumstances. And since then, I have started to delve a little more into religion. I'll tell you one thing. I always was interested in religion as a child. It always appealed to me.
Okay.
But I went to a Catholic school for the first 9 years. And the 9th grade, I was in a class on religion, and I always loved that class. Till one day, the nun said to us, 2 of you children are going to be nuns, 2 of the girls in this class. And then, please God, not me.
Right.
And I have to say, as a 13 or 14-year-old, that turned me off.
Oh, that turned you off. And I was like,
I didn't want to be a nun.
You're going to be drafted into a service, and that wouldn't be, you'd want to get out of a place that's going to do that to you. The minister's prayer later, when your husband was in his last.
After he had been pronounced dead, yeah.
Yeah. That did bring some kind of halo of peace.
It did.
Yeah, around your life.
Enough to to bring me to attending that church, to attending those church services. Then I soon after that, about a year and a half later, I became a chaplain.
Oh, really? Now, how did that come about? Because you're not a minister, and it's really not a ministerial role.
This is the way God talks to me.
Okay.
Soon after my husband died, my father had died the year before, and I still had my mother, and she was showing signs of dementia. And my husband had been very helpful in dealing with her. But when I was alone, it was
what a burden.
Really difficult. As she lived about an hour and a half away, and I had to keep driving back and forth, and finally realized that I couldn't have her come live with me because I couldn't leave her alone.
Right.
And so I was arranging for her to go into assisted living.
Yeah.
And she was not helpful. And so I had a lot of that pressure.
Yeah.
And so between it being, the time that I was grieving and that happening, I went on a retreat with that church. And during that time, I remember a number of us sitting in a circle, and we were all speaking about whatever the subject was. And every time it came around to my turn, I said, I pass. I couldn't speak. What's going on?
You can usually talk, right?
Yeah, when I had to. And then the third time it happened, I just got up and ran away and started crying. And I didn't realize that my mother, I think I had just gotten her into care. And that's when I broke down. And of course, a couple of the women came over and comforted me. One of them was a much younger woman, and she says, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to.
Good. Yeah. Good.
And then she was a little bit too strong about trying to take care of me.
Okay.
Friendly to a point. But she said to me at one stage, says, I'm going to the hospital to sign up for being a chaplain. You should come too. I don't want to be a chaplain. I don't even know what a chaplain does.
Right.
And she hounded me at a time that it was easier to do what she had asked me to do.
Right.
To hear her hound me some more. So I did go, and it was strange that one of the women who was helping the chaplain in charge was a friend of mine. Who gave me a great recommendation.
Okay.
And so from there, I started. And it's interesting. I talked to some of the new chaplains who come along. Oh, I always wanted to do this. This is something I always wanted to do. And almost all of them say that. That wasn't me at all.
That's not what you had always wanted to do.
No, and actually for me, it was hard going. It was very hard for me to walk in cold, to patients' rooms in the beginning.
Someone you don't know, and they've just been through an operation of some kind.
Right. And so I've evolved. Now, it doesn't bother me anymore because I've done it so many times.
Sure.
And to start a conversation, I can usually do that just from evolving from experience.
Yeah, you've learned how to do it.
I've learned how to do it.
And what seems helpful to them, I suppose, and what doesn't. You've kind of learned what kinds of things you can say that do seem relevant and welcome.
I think after a while, before I start my job that day, I always say the chaplain's prayer. You know, there's a chaplain who helped at 9/11, and they found in his pocket the prayer.
My goodness.
Lord, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Help me to say what you want me to say, and then get me out of the way.
Wonderful prayer.
It's a wonderful prayer. And that last sentence is so important.
Yes.
That it's not about what you think, it's just letting them have their say and not interjecting any advice from you or anything like that. So we always say that prayer. And so therefore I feel like when I'm a chaplain, and sometimes when it's a difficult situation, I think, God, please help me out fast.
Right.
And I would say God usually does.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's a wonderful experience for me.
Mm-hmm. So God helps you out by maybe the right words just coming to you, or the right attitude, how to face into this situation, how to feel about it.
Yes. I don't feel it's me. I feel like I'm an operator.
Right. You're handing yourself over as a kind of divine instrument, if you put it that strong language, but letting God make the best use of you for the purposes in the situation. My
only problem is that happens once a week. And I wish that I could be, so much to be that same person who could let go as much the rest of the week.
Okay. Said something about gardening, which sounds like maybe in retrospect, you can see that there is a kind of divine presence there. Mm. Can you say more about that, or is that about all one can say about? Well,
I think what I love so much about gardening, I used to have these big compost heap. And I loved, of course, I had a greenhouse, and starting plants was just such a beautiful thing. But the compost heap was like life. Because you could put twigs and all kinds of garden refuse in there.
Okay. Yes.
And turn it once in a while.
Into new life.
And kind of forget about it.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden there were worms in there.
Yes.
Eating away and changing the substance.
Yes.
And the next year we'd kind of break away the edges, and there would be this beautiful, beautiful compost.
Yes.
And it just was the whole cycle.
Yeah.
You could feel that whole cycle of life.
Yes.
And decaying, and then bringing new life.
Yes. Yes. Yes, that's beautiful. Beautiful.
And so, it wasn't only planting, it was, cleaning up in the fall and taking everything and putting it in the compost heap. And that was just as beautiful as seeing a beautiful geranium.
Yes, new life. When you did read God an Autobiography, what struck you about it such that you took an interest in it, in the book?
Well, one of the things I would say, it confirmed a feeling I've always had, and that God set different paths for different people. I could never believe, as they taught us in the Catholic schools, if a baby doesn't get baptized within 3 years, he goes to limbo or whatever they used to tell him. And that never set right, even as a child.
Right.
It never set right. And I remember I was friends with a Jewish girl across the road, and she was so nice. And how could she be going to hell?
Right.
And so those things always sat in the back of my mind that it isn't fair. What you're telling me isn't fair.
Yes.
And so anyhow, reading about the other religions, which I had read about before, but now having God confirm this, confirmed my inner thoughts.
Yes.
And the thing that sort of scared me at first when I read the book was that when God said he was evolving, he or she.
That's a shocking thought. It was to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't shocking by the end of the book, but it was the first time.
Right.
And why did that sort of shock you? It just contradicted all I'd ever heard about the meaning of the term God.
Yes. I mean, this was this idea that God was something indestructible, knows everything, knows everything you're doing, and then all of a sudden that God can change.
Right.
And that was a difficult concept, but then it got okay. I don't know why. It just became.
Yes. Well, some have pointed out that if God is too unchanging, then God can't even answer prayer, because prayer would be doing something in response to a human being, not just a kind of self-sufficient contemplating contemplating God's self and doing nothing else, but God's responding to human beings, and also the God in Autobiography is a very personal God.
Yes.
God is not God as a metaphor. Some high theology often, makes God kind of a metaphor, makes God's love kind of a metaphor. But no, this is God God has many dimensions, but one is personal. And so God loves Rosemarie and cares about Rosemarie and cares to help you have the right words in a difficult situation. So we're living our lives in partnership, and so it's not surprising that such a God, just as we develop an interaction with each other, that God would, I might say, discover different sides of God's self by relating to different people, different cultures, and so on, and that there's some kind of development that I guess you'd call a movement upward. That God is moving forward, we're moving forward, the world's moving forward, and we're doing that together. That God needs our partnership in doing that. So, your work, Rosemarie, with, as a chaplain with those people in great need, this is a very difficult point in their lives when they're hospitalized.
Right? They're very vulnerable.
Yeah. And so you're working with God in that situation, either covertly or often God is just kind of a silent partner, but is nevertheless.
I'm amazed how many times people will say, "Thank you so much."
Yes.
Then I think to myself, okay, something happened to you. It's not my business even. That's between them and God. And but it does make me feel good.
Yeah, indeed. There's some worry about people who start thinking about the many religions, and if there's some divine presence in multiple religions around the world and across the historical time, that's going to undermine their belief in their own religion, which is, after all, for most of us, our best, you might say, connection with God. Some of it's just internal and private, but also it's fostered crucially by identification with a church, a community, a religious tradition with its riches, the music, the hymns, the prayers, the whole thing. And there's a worry that if you say, well, the Hindus may have something too, and the Buddhists may have something, and the nice Jewish girl you knew may have also something divine flowing through them, that's going to undermine being a nice Episcopalian. And do you have any of that worry, or does it just seem like more truth or something like that?
No, I have absolutely no worry with that. And there was something in the book about God with the Eastern peoples.
Yes.
And that he spoke to them in a different way.
Yes.
That they could feel things. And immediately it brought to my mind the Reiki.
Yes.
And the ways that...
Reiki healing?
Reiki healing.
Yes, Reiki healing. Yes.
I've had a little bit of knowledge, which is probably a dangerous thing in those areas, but I have studied a little bit of that.
But I know people who've done Reiki healing, and that it could be effective at least with certain things. And that was your experience and in the amount of...
Yes, and I learned it myself, and I learned another process, and did it just for friends, for a while.
Yeah.
And so I could at least understand it from a feeling point of view.
Yeah.
So when he said that, oh yeah.
The Eastern was more the internal way of relating to the divine. And less, God didn't give the Hindus a covenant. For example, if you think of the people of Israel, it's kind of God's partner in history, unfolding over time and so forth. With the Hindus, it's very internal, and Reiki may come out of that tradition. I don't know the history of Reiki, but
I think it came from I think it was Japan.
Okay.
But I'm not sure of that. But it was in that, certainly in the East rather than the West.
Eastern type, and both types of avenues there are multiple avenues to the divine, and this deeply internal one is one of them. And some people practice more than one, as you do in the healing mode with Reiki. Where would you like to see your spiritual life going now?
You know what I would like to see for me? That I could be the same person the other 6 days of the week that I am.
Wonderful.
When I'm working at the hospital.
Because you're at your best in the mode of service. And
I guess so.
Right?
Yeah.
And you don't have energy to run around doing this every day, I assume.
No. And they wouldn't need. They have, and our present chaplain in charge has trained a lot of people. So you'd be amazed at how many people want to do this.
Oh, good for them. Yeah, I know someone who is very unhappy, and it seems almost chemical or something. Even when life is sort of going well, there's a kind of heavy cloud over him. And I was saying, well, I don't know how he can become happy. I've known people like this, but I said that you can still have a meaningful life, and it might be through service or something. So you may always have this cloud, but that doesn't stop you from doing valuable and important things and enriching your life and the lives of others. And that's what you're doing in that in the chaplain's role. Don't you think the attitudes and skills that you exercise that one day a week carry over into your other interactions with friends? Doesn't it lead you to be supportive, comforting, and caring and loving with them? Or is it everybody's running around busy?
It just isn't the same.
It just isn't the same.
It isn't the same. I certainly try.
Yeah, but one is very intense.
But it isn't the same.
It's not the same. And
it's totally a different situation. Where there are different situations.
Yeah. And you really want to live a life following that prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, would you mind, I guess actually ran over maybe a little bit here, but I think it would be wonderful if we could just end on your repeating the prayer. And this was the prayer from
the chaplain to the fireman. He died. The chaplain died. I think he got there after the first building went down.
Yes.
And he was being a chaplain to the firemen. And then the second building went down and it killed him along with everybody else. Yes. But I guess he didn't burn because they found this prayer in his pocket.
Right.
And it was, Lord, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Help me to say what you want me to say. And then take me out of the way.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's a good note to end on. Well, thank you very much, Rosemarie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to God and Autobiography, the podcast. Subscribe for free today wherever you listen to your podcasts and hear a new episode every week. You can hear the complete dramatic adaptation of God and Autobiography as Told to a Philosopher by Jerry L. Martin by beginning with episode 1 of our podcast and listening through its conclusion with episode 44. You can read the original true story in the book from which this podcast is adapted, God and Autobiography as Told to a Philosopher, available now at Amazon.com and always at godandautobiography.com. Pick up your own copy today. If you have any questions about this or any other episode, please email us at questions@godandautobiography.com and experience the world from God's perspective, as it was told to a philosopher. This is Scott Langdon. I'll see you next time.